Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Nights on the Sofa. We're very privileged to have Laurie Sanchez with us tonight. And yes, we are playing Wimbledon tomorrow, and I'd like to say that it was planned, but it's a coincidence. So we'll be hearing from Laurie in a second. Just a few announcements. End of season dinner. It is going to happen. It's the 29th of April, Tuesday the 29th. We are going to start selling the tickets on Wednesday. All members will have a chance and they'll get the link to be able to purchase them on Wednesday. And then it will be open to anybody else via socials at the end of the weekend. Also, on the 4th of May, which is the Sunday, we have a memorabilia fair. So it's going to be in Bar 71. And if you would like a table, if you're decluttering and need to get rid of things, programs or memorabilia of any sort, please get in contact with us. Tables are £10. As always, all our proceeds go to our charity of the year. At the end of season dinner, we will also be giving the full update on where we are with our charity of the year this year and how much we've raised for them. And we will be announcing our charity for next year. A couple of the results. So the Academy unfortunately went to a loss against Newport, losing 2-1. But our development team, women's development team, won 2-1 against Ipswich yesterday, which is a good result. So let's bring Vic on, and he'll have some news about SAS.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. I'm good. You okay?
Yeah, lovely weather, fabulous weather. So how could you not be? Fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, some SAS news. There's a few seats left for Fleetwood this weekend, which is virtually the same journey as we did on Saturday to Morecambe, all but 20 miles, I think. £33 for non-members, £35 for members, leaves the county ground at 7:45 a.m. So that's Fleetwood this weekend. And still a few short for the second coach for Grimsby, which of course is on Good Friday. Could you book the coach by Thursday, please? Because they need to know as soon as possible so that they can make arrangements with Barnes, etc. So if you still want to go to Grimsby on Good Friday, there are seats available, but please get in touch as soon as possible. £37 for non-members, £39 for members. No, the other way. Yeah, hang on. Let's get that right.
No,
yes, £37 for members, £39 for non-members, departing the county ground at the same time, 7:45 a.m. That's Grimsby on Good Friday. But brilliantly produced, Chris. You've got a Wimbledon legend and an excellent town player the day before Wimbledon.
And that's a note. Shall we bring him on? Oh. Hiya.
Good evening.
Hiya. You okay?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just reading my last game for Swindon.
All right. All right.
Last game versus Leeds.
Yes.
Jan the man. Jan the man on the front.
Last game of the season. I'm just looking to. I was actually looking to see how many appearances I had, because this would have been on
I'm sure Vic knows, Laurie. He's a font of knowledge.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And the last one?
Actually, 8.
8 appearances. The last one was against Leeds United. Absolutely correct. Yes.
There was a game against QPR for some reason. I don't know what that was about, but I wasn't involved in that one. I think I might have been injured. My last starting game. Do you know what my last starting game was?
Go on then.
Wimbledon.
Yes.
Really?
I came on a sub. I think I've come on a sub against Chelsea, and I came on a sub against Leeds. For some reason, I don't think I played at QPR. Don't know. I think I might have missed that game through injury. But
that was right at the end, wasn't it, of the season? That one. QPR.
Last 2 games of the season. Yeah, the Saturday before. Ironically, my debut as a Reading player, which I started my career at Red, was against Wimbledon.
Yeah, absolutely.
How ironic is that?
It's amazing. It's so many coincidences. I was going through your career and Wimbledon kept cropping up, like your debut, all that kind of thing. And of course, we will talk about Wimbledon as we go through this, because it's a great part of your life. But also, of course, Wimbledon reborn as AFC Wimbledon as well. So lots to talk about.
Never played.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave you now. So I'll get on.
All right, Chris, thanks very much indeed. It's a great pleasure to have you along, Laurie. Thank you ever so much for joining us. As you
All
said,
right.
you started your professional career as a player with Reading, but you've been, I think, at Southampton and Thatcham before that. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a schoolboy at Southampton. When I was 16, I was doing my O levels. They got to the FA Cup final, famously, under Laurie McMenemy, and I told him I wanted to stand to do my A levels, and at that stage they said, "Well, if you can do your A levels, we're looking for people to come into the academy or into the not what's an academy then to what do they call them, apprentices then, wasn't it?"
Mm.
And I said, "Well, I'm staying on at school." So he said, "In that case, then, but perhaps it's time for us to separate our ways." So I then immediately was picked up by Reading. So I played in the Reading reserve side, and on the Saturdays I played for Thatcham Town.
Yeah, lovely. I always remember there's a very famous picture of you whilst at a school desk because you made your debut while still studying. Is that right?
I did make my debut while I was still studying. I was doing I was doing my A levels. It was my last year of my A levels, and I got the call. I played in the reserves a few times, and I got the call to come and play in the first team. And yeah, so I made my debut. I turned up with the Liverpool one of those bags that I have over your shoulder. You know, the old plastic ones with the team on it. And mine had Liverpool on for some reason, which is ironic. And I turned up with a dirty pair of boots and had to be introduced to the first team because I didn't really know them.
Fabulous. I mean, how did you feel then? You're suddenly making your professional debut. How was that about? How did that feel?
Well, I played for the reserves, so I had been in and around the club for about 6 months or so. So I played for the reserves. I scored I scored a stunning goal on the Wednesday before the Wimbledon game for the reserves, where I chipped the keeper from the edge of the box, and I think that sort of was the because when I remember going in when I got reintroduced, and they were saying, "Are you the kid that chipped the goalkeeper in that game the other night?" I said, "Yeah." I said, and that sort of gave me a bit of credence with them. So yeah, they had to phone the school up and ask for permission from the headmaster to see if I could play.
Fabulous. I mean, that obviously education was very important to you and indeed your family. So, how big a part did that play in your career as you went through?
Well, I mean, I went to a school called Presentation College. Everybody already knows it. It was in the days of grammar schools. A grammar school, it's an independent. It went on to be independent after the local council decided not to fund grammar schools apart from Reading and Kendrick. But yeah, it had a good background in those days. You passed 11 plus. You went to a grammar school, and then you went on to university. So I was the first one from my family to have a chance of going to university, and I wanted to do that. So I studied my A levels, got my A levels, and then I didn't quite get the A levels I needed to get to Loughborough, whereas I wanted to go. So Reading signed me. So I literally finished my last A level on a Friday, and I started training for Reading on the Monday as a professional. And that year was the year we won the fourth division title.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, I went back to school or back to technical college and got the grade I needed to get to Loughborough, and got another A level on the side of it as well. And I said to Morris at the end of the season, "Look, I've got a place at Loughborough University and I'd like to go. Education is very important for me. Football at the time, you were playing in the third division. It was a career and it wasn't a career. I mean, you could only go so far if you want. The money wasn't fantastic. It's not like now, where I'm watching Reading play down the road here, and their wage bill's about 5 million quid, and you've got players on £200,000 a year. It wasn't like that when you were playing the third division when I was there. So I wanted to go to university. I thought that'd be for me longer term. That'd be a better thing. And Morris turned around to me and said, "Look, we'll sign you on a 3-year contract to cover your degree course, and you can come down." Well, and one of the seasons I was actually at a do the other day for a book signing about Steve Death, who was the goalkeeper when I was there. And when I was speaking to one of the other guys, and he said, "Oh yeah, you used to bugger off to university all the time." I said, "Well, one year I played more games at Reading than anybody else at the club, and I was at university for 3 months at the time, 3 months of the season. So it wasn't as if it was an easy thing for me to do, but it's something I did."
I was going to say, how difficult was that to balance the two? I'm guessing as a professional footballer, you get, your lunchtime finish, etc., etc. Did that help?
Well, you think about it. I mean, clubs go back at the beginning of July. So I went back pre-season beginning of July, trained July, August, September. up to the second week in October. So I had 3.5 months under me, and by that time that you'd played the 2 games a week as well, the early part of the season, to get the a bulk of the season out of the way when the weather was good. I went to university for 10 weeks. On Fridays I used to drive back, finished at lunchtime, used to drive back on Fridays from university, meet up with my girlfriend, go to cinema Friday night, Saturday play, go out Saturday night, Sunday, actually I stayed Sunday as well, and drove back Monday morning for Monday afternoon lectures. And that's what I did. And the other side was all the other away games were up the M1. So they used to pick me up at Loughborough on the way. And up there I used to train with the university football side. So I carried on training, obviously did training by myself, but I trained with them a couple of times during the week. And of course, come Christmas, you're back for 4 weeks full time anyway. And I just came back and trained full time. And obviously, you're playing a lot of games over the Christmas period. And likewise, at Easter, I came back and I was here for the 4 weeks of Easter. At the end of that, Morris used to say to me, "Look, go and do your exams. We don't need you anymore."
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, yeah, it's football's a funny thing, isn't it? I mean, 1 minute you can be up, 1 minute you can be down. I mean, you as a manager later on in your career would know that you have to deal with players and tell them that they're not required, etc. It's a tough old gig, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you only got to look at your own Ian Holloway at the moment. I think after about 3 or 4 games, he was having discussions, as we say, with fans about what was happening. And now they've just given him a 3-year contract. It is an up and down game being a manager, yeah. But as a footballer, if you can avoid injury, and I was always in teams. I mean, I'm sure it'd be more difficult if I was on sub or if on the verge of team, but I was always in teams. Let's say one season when I was away at university, I played at all 46 games of the season plus cup games, and I played a couple of reserve games on top of it. It's what you did when you're doing it. When you look back at it and you think, how did you do that? Here's a classic. My 21st birthday, we were playing away at Bristol Rovers. So I drive down to Banbury so I'm driving from Loughborough, drive down to Banbury to meet Mine Hicks, who's the captain. He then drives on to Reading Football Club. So we get down to Reading. So I'm leaving in the afternoon. I leave about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. He then picks me up. We drive down to Reading, get on the coach there, drive down to Bristol. This is my 21st birthday, remember. We have pre-match, play the game. This is 7:30, 8 o'clock kickoff in the evening. Get back to Reading about 12 o'clock. I'm on the coach and they realise it's my birthday, so the board members say, "Come up and have a quick drink." So you go up and have a quick drink. Martin then drives back to Banbury, drops me at Banbury. I get in my car at Banbury and drive back to Loughborough. Get back to Loughborough about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that was my 21st birthday.
Goodness me! You'll always remember. Well, you always will remember that, won't you? I mean, it's incredible.
It's a different way to spend your 21st. The only thing I can't remember is the result. I suppose if I could look up a book and find out what the result was. I don't think I scored. I'll remember it more. But what I say is that was my normal life at the time, and you just accepted and get on with it. When you look back at it, you think people say, "How did you do that?" Well, you did it because it's what you did.
Yeah. You mentioned your debut was ironically against Wimbledon. I think Dave Bassett played for Wimbledon in that game, did he not?
So it was their first season in the league. They just got up. It's 1st of October 1977. I know because my birthday's on the 22nd of October. So I got in as a 17-year-old, which is always nice. Made my debut as a 17-year-old, even if it was only 21 days inside that target. But yeah, made my debut as a 17-year-old. Bassett played in midfield for Reading. It was their first season up. It was the end of his career. He was 35, I think. It was the last season that he played. He played along a guy called Steve Galliers, as it happens. And Steve Galliers, when I did go to Wimbledon and we did get to the top, we got promoted together in the centre midfield. And then for the first 10 or so games, me and him played centre midfield together in the first division, as it was then.
Yeah. So how did that move to Wimbledon come about? Because obviously, they must have been impressed with you. I mean, you're a player who's been in the news. We've mentioned it already, publicity photographs of you at school, all that kind of thing. How did Wimbledon get involved with you?
Well, to be fair, I was at Reading 7 years. I mean, I think I'm the 18th player in the all-time to have played more than 300 games for 2 clubs, i.e. Reading and Wimbledon. So I'd spent 7 years at Reading. I think I've actually got a what's name here. I've actually got you see that?
Oh, lovely. Nice haircut.
Yeah, a
very
mouse
good.
sheet. I made 305 appearances, scored in 31 goals, according to David Downs, who's the club historian. So I played over 300 games for Reading, and I played over 300 games for Wimbledon, which is quite an achievement when you think about it. One,
Yeah.
to be in the team that length of time, and two, to only be at two clubs, or obviously not counting Swindon, but to spend your career at two clubs. So basically, we got promoted fourth division title. Changed the manager in the course of the season. Morris Evans, who had led us, had given me my debut and led us up to that time. So this is sort of 7 years in. We had a new owners come in, and they brought in Ian Branford as assistant.
Mhm.
And for some reason, Ian Branford didn't fancy me, despite the fact that the year we got promoted that year, I was second leading goal scorer behind Trevor Senior. I think I scored 10 goals. Well, I know I scored 10 goals from midfield. Trevor Senior at the time had scored 42 goals, and I was the second leading goal scorer. Shows how important he was.
Mm.
I come up runner up in the Player of the Year. Played, I think, almost every game, if not every game. And then I went at the end of the season, for the way, because we were on 1 year contracts, then 2 year once you came back from university, he's on 1 year or 2 year contracts. And he asked me how he thought I'd done that season, and this was his first wage negotiation. And I said, yeah, I think I had a good season, pointed all those things out I've just said to you. And he said, no, I don't think you've played that well. And the minute he said that, I realised that perhaps my future was short lived at Reading from then onwards. Subsequently, I started the season. He dropped me after a few games, and one day came in and said, "Go down to Swindon. You're signing for Swindon." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you're signing for Swindon." So I was a local boy, played 7 years for Reading. I'd have been quite happy to end my career at Reading. That I had no greater expectations than that, playing in the lower leagues. I went down, spoke to Lou Macari, had a bit of a medical, and we agreed terms. He told me what the terms were, and I got to say, I was just so shell shocked. I'd literally come in and been told to go down to Swindon and talk to him, and I'd never moved before, never had a transfer, never been involved in any sort of stuff like this, and I just sat bemused. Lou spoke to me, said he thought I was a good player, thought I could do a job for them, and they were the division below at the time, as I remember. They were in the fourth division. Reading had just got promoted to the third division. I got home, completely bemused, thinking, what happens now? And then I got a phone call from someone who was involved at Wimbledon, said, whatever you do, don't sign for Swindon. He said, we'll sign you at Wimbledon. Go up to the Hilton Hotel at Heathrow, meet Dave Bassett and his assistant, and they'll sort out. So I went all that. So there's me, come home, sat there thinking, what's going on? Got this phone call, drove up to the Hilton about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And it's unusual for me, miss training. It felt really strange to miss training. I'd been called into the office before training, told to go down to Swindon, gone down there, met Lou, come back, sat there with the missus talking about what happens now. They got this call to go up to Hilton, drove up to the Hilton. And as I say, for me to miss training was unusual. I mean, I wasn't injured in those days, and I felt really strange to miss one day's training. Go up there, speak to Dave Bassett, and he basically offers me exactly the same money. Lou, well, stupidly, he says to me, "How much did Swindon offer you?" And I told him, which was little bit of a sign-on fee, which I'd never had signed. But I signed straight from school. I didn't know what a sign-on fee was. I was just on basic wage at Reading, no sign-on fees, nothing really. So they offered this sign-on fee, which I thought, well, that's quite nice. Told me the basic wage, which was not a lot more than I was getting, and that was it. And he said, "Oh, we'll match it." And you've got to remember, Wimbledon were in the division above. So Swindon were fourth, Reading were third, Wimbledon were second, as in those divisions in those days. And he offered me exactly the same money as a fourth division team. And all I remember thinking was, to be fair, the money was pretty irrelevant to me at the time. All I wanted to do was play as hard. And what I thought is, I'll sign a 2-year contract. If I can play a couple of years in the second division championship, at least I'll say I've played at that level. And I went, joined them, came back into the club, told Branford, he said, "You signing for Swindon?" I said, "No." I said, "You get another phone call later in the morning." They said, I'm taking my boots and I'm off. And basically that was it. I left Reading. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You'll find out later." And Bassett phoned him up, sorted it out. They signed me for 30,000, who knows. Ironically, I was going to be swapped for Colin Bailey, I think it was. Colin Bailey, the left back at your place.
Yeah.
I was, and apparently they were going to get me plus money for Colin Bailey, which is ironic. So obviously, I wasn't even as I understand it, it wasn't even a straight swap. They were getting money plus me, which would have been anyway. Subsequently, I think Colin Bailey did come to Reading, didn't he? I think he was involved in the Simod Cup team. But I go to Wimbledon, and the rest, as they say, is history.
It's amazing, really, that you nearly signed for Swindon before you signed for Swindon. I mean,
do you know the thing that annoys me most? Speaking to Lou, and at this time, I don't know if you can talk about it on your pod. This is when Lou was handing out cash to everybody. Do you remember the thing that got relegated?
We remember those times very well. Yes, indeed, we got yes.
All the players were on cash payments and such like. Not once did he say to me, "There's going to be a bit of cash in it for you." I'm thinking he can't have really fancied me at all if he didn't, because he was giving it to everybody else apparently.
Yeah,
shouldn't laugh about it, but that was during those times.
They were very troubled times, as we all know, 1990 and all that, when we eventually got relegated, and
which cost you because of it, didn't it? Cost you your Premier League title.
Absolutely. So you get up to Wimbledon then. I mean, this is a club that done well because of FA Cup success and got voted into the Football League. What were your impressions of Plough Lane?
Yeah, non-league stadium, complete non. I'll tell you, the first day I've turned up at Wimbledon, we trained at a place called Richard Evans, which was basically on the A3, first set of traffic lights, turn right just before you get to the Asda, as it was then. I don't know what it's now, Safeway or something, but it was the. Of course, in those days, nobody had training. Well, some had training grounds, but a lot of clubs just trained where they could. I think, in fact, by the time I got to Swindon, they were training on someone else's training ground at the time, weren't they? So it was literally the changing rooms attached to a transport cafe for the Sunday teams, and had the old benches, with the slats in them, the peg to hang your coat up on, and that was it. You walked in there, and then literally some days we came in on the Monday, and there was still the mud from the Saturday on the floor, But I remember sitting next to Alan Court my first day, in what was the first team dressing room, and he said to me, "I don't know why you signed for us." I said, So this is me, first day, thinking, well, I've changed club, hopefully it'll go well, hopefully I'll do well, hopefully see. He said, "I don't know why you signed for us." I said, "Why? What's up?" He said, "We're shocking." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we're shocking. We're going to get relegated. We ain't very good." That was their first season in the second division, and it was Christmas time. And I've sat there thinking, and he weren't joking. He was, in the fact that if anybody's met Alan Cork, he's the most miserable person in the world. He is someone that can put a damper on any party. And I just sat there open mouth, because, of course, when you live in Swindon and Reading, you don't realise that we are in the sticks as compared to London. London is a completely different mentality work-wise. I mean, I know Ian, to be fair, who came to Wimbledon when I was there from Bristol Rovers, found it a massive shock to his system to come from, in the country. We're quite nice to each other. We're quite, we'll help each other. I say in the country, I'm only 40 miles from London here. I mean, Swindon's another, 20 miles down the motorway. Bristol's another 20 miles beyond that. But, we have the time of day for everybody. We help each other. In London, it's cutthroat. It's all about, and I'm being a bit. It is. You've got to be able to stand up for yourself in London. Otherwise, you'll get flaming trodden all over. So I'm sat there thinking, coming up from Reading, God, I've made the biggest mistake in my life. I should sign for Swindon. As it happens, when I watched the team play on the Saturday, I thought, how on earth am I going to get in this team? They're too good for me. I think they beat Birmingham at home. Actually, no, tell a lie. They beat someone else. It wasn't Birmingham. I made my debut against Birmingham at home on Boxing Day, I think it was. And coming up again, this is an example of it. Coming up from London, I thought I'd done okay. First half, didn't really know the players. Had a week training with them, playing Birmingham. Big team even then, in full house at Plough Lane, Boxing Day, and comes in at half time. Bassett comes in at half time, goes, "Are you fit or what?" And I'm looking at him thinking, this is my first half of football for the club. You've got to give me some leeway, surely. He goes, "You are not fit. You need to get yourself fit and live." And to be fair, there's a few expletives chucked in there. And I'm looking thinking, this isn't how managers talk to players, is it? But within a few months, you just took that as standard and said, you just get on with it, you know?
How did this sort of famous? I mean, you've heard the term "crazy gang" so many times, you must be kind of fed up with it. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I was the
how
second
did that all
iteration.
come about? How did that
I was
spirit come about?
I was the second iteration of the crazy gang. Before I got there, so I got there the first season in the second division, and before that they'd bobbled between fourth and third, fourth and third, fourth and third, and then one season they went third to second, and I got there. But it's in those bobbling about between the fourth and third that title crazy gang sort of got on, because some of their exploits, they had some good cup runs against Forest and such. I think they knocked Forest out of the League Cup or something. They did some other stuff, and they got a little bit of press. And they had one or two players there who weren't shy, people like Wally Downs and that. And once the camera was put in front of them, and Bassett quite enjoyed it as well, and Sam and Man enjoyed it. They used to give him this outrageous ragtag bob of people on peanuts, flaming, tearing up mountains. You know, by the time I got there, it was on a slightly more professional footing, but we did, you know, our first time at Old Trafford, we beat Man United. Our first time at Liverpool, at Anfield, we beat Liverpool. That mentality of us against the world was prevalent from those lower division days. And a lot of that team that first played in that first game in the first division had played in the fourth division with Wimbledon. People like Dave Besant, Alan Cork, Wally Downs. You know, there were players there. Stevie Gallius. There had players there that played in the fourth division with them. You know, so all of a sudden, this pulling up trees against the top boys, this crazy gang thing, became a bigger thing, and the press latched onto it. The press loved it. The press loved the story about getting to the top division, you know, from FA Youth Cup to FA Cup in 25 years, winning both. It was a great story until such time as we got there. Then the press wanted us to go away. And that's when, you know, it was very much, we've enjoyed the story. Now, you know, we've had that story, now go away. And the fact of life was, once we got there, we found a taste for it, and we weren't going anywhere.
Well, there's something we're going to talk about, I'm sure, very soon that meant you didn't go away. This is from Daz St George, by the way. The 21st birthday match for Laurie, 22nd of October 1980, English Third Division, Reading 1, Colchester 0, Jay Williams on 37 minutes. Does that ring a bell?
It does. It does. Yeah. My 18th birthday. I remember it because my girlfriend had a party that night, and I just lay on the sofa all night, well, knackered, because I was actually, you know, you got to remember, coming from schoolboy to playing full professional is a step up. You know, while I was at university, I was training full time in Reading, so I could cope with it. But I was a schoolboy. I mean, I wasn't training. I mean, basically, I was playing 4 or 5 games a week, and that was my training. There was no extra training or anything like that. You know, I wasn't down at Reading midweek training with the team or anything. I was literally playing football 4 or 5 nights a week. So coming to playing a full day on a Saturday, and I played about 10 games that season when I was at school, I think. And I remember it was my 18th. I think it was near her 18th birthday as well. And I literally lay on the sofa all night while everybody was jogging about and jumping about. And you know, my girlfriend, don't be so boring. I said, I'm knackered. You
know. Right. Let's get it. You know, talk about the crazy gang a little bit. I mean, obviously, people talk about Vinnie Jones. How big a character was he? How important was he? I'm guessing he was a leader. What was that like?
Thing was at Wimbledon, I mean, you know, I came there late. I say I came there late. If you want to call it the crazy, so let's go through. They've had the crazy gang in the lower leagues. Then we've got to the championship. Then all of a sudden, or the second division, I'll call it second division, what it was. All of a sudden, we start. You know, within 18 months of being in the second division, we were promoted to the top flight. So I think they went from bottom to top in about 6 seasons or something. You know, carrying along most of those players that had done, you know, worked in the lower leagues, as I said. It was only thereafter that people like Fash joined us on. This was the turning point to a certain extent. Fash joined us deadline day in the when we were in the second division. So he only played. What's for deadline day? I played 8 games. He must have played less than 8 games from then to the end of the season. They went out and splashed the cash on this big centre forward at Millwall. You know, we had a chance. We were third in the title, and they thought, you know, if we can perhaps have a push, get a player in that might make a difference, we could be there and thereabouts. And as it happens, he came in. He's a big, ugly centre forward, and he helped us get up without doubt. You know, his strength up front certainly aided us in getting up. But it was only the following season in the top flight that Vinny joined. So, and I don't know how many years Vinny was at Wimbledon, but I would suggest it's probably 1, 2, 3 seasons. You know, it's those stories like everybody tells me Robbie Friday was the best player who ever played for Reading. Robbie Friday played for Reading for about 2.5 seasons, I think. You know, people like Martin Hicks spent 10 years there and played 700 games. I mean, I would say he's a much more influential player than someone who, you know, played that length of time. And the stories with, you know, Vinny was a, you know, he certainly, the story, let me tell you the story about how I came to make Vinny. So we get up, we start the season in the top flight. I'm playing with Stevie Galliers, who I played with all my time since I went to the club. We were the centre midfield too. We play Tottenham away. We go 1-0 up, I think it is. Me and Graham Roberts get sent off. We're about 10 games in or so. Me and Graham Roberts get sent off. Referee says we have he's been already booked. We're going for a tackle together, and it's an, you know, we have a little altercation. He goes down realizing that he might get a double booking and being sent off. So he calls on a stretcher, doesn't he? Thinking he can get away on a stretcher, then he might get away with the second booking. Referee goes to me, Laurie, if he goes off on a stretcher, I'm going to have to send you off as well. And I said, fair enough. And there's a famous scene of him sending off Graham Roberts with the red card over the stretcher, and he sent me off. So man for man, pawn for pawn. We're quite happy with it. But we played on. Tottenham's got the old clock, the old White Hart Lane had a clock, and that you games usually finish about 10-5 on that clock. We played to about 5:05 that game. And could they score to equalise? Would the referee give them any more time to try and get an equaliser? Anyway. We win. That's our first away win. That sort of legitimised us as a top flight team. You know, that we could beat Tottenham away from home. You know, first time in the league. But the story of that is I've got 3-match ban. Vinny comes in and plays the 3 games that I'm suspended in midfield. And the game that I remember, I didn't go to the first game, which was Forest, which apparently the kit man at half time said, give us your boots, Vinny. And he said, why? He said, well, you're not very good. And his words were a little bit more spicy than that. You're not very good and you won't be going out second half. And this is a kit man. This is the type of mentality we worked at. No other club could the kit man say that to you, you know. He wouldn't. And anyway, he went out, played, finished the game. Second game, Man United at home. I go to the game. Sat behind the dugout. And in those days at Plough Lane, they had the barriers. Do you remember the barriers used to be up round grounds to stop the crowd getting on the pitch to attack the players? Anyway, corner comes across. Vinny, who's a big lad, gets on the end of it, powers his header in the top corner. His run continues and it follows through, and he jumps onto the fencing in front of the home end at Plough Lane. And he's spread eagled on the fencing going mad. You know, this guy who'd been on the building site, a couple of years before around playing for Wealdstone, who scored the winner against Man United. And I'm sat there behind the dugout thinking, this guy's going to be a legend here. So he plays the third game. I don't play in that. Plays with Stevie Galliers. Fourth game comes. I come back into the team. And then me and Vinny play for the next 2 years cup final, 3 years, and I think he goes the following season. And we played together for 3 years.
Amazing.
Subsequently, he comes back years later after I've been at the club 10 years. He goes, Robbie Earl comes in. I play with Robbie Earl. Then about in 92, I think he comes back to the club. I'm 32 by then. Me and Robbie and him play a season perhaps together, intimate, in and out. And then the following season, him and Vinny play together. And I'm the odd man out. I'm on the bench sometimes, blah, blah, blah. But by then, I was at the end of my career. And that's when Swindon come calling.
Yeah, let's talk about one notable game, though, at Wimbledon. Then we'll move on to the Swindon siding. Happens to be at Wembley, of course. One L. Sanchez happens to get the winning goal. This after Peter Beardsley had a goal disallowed. You get your glorious...
You can't have a goal disallowed. It was offside.
It wasn't a goal. Okay, yeah. But that happened before.
Everybody has stopped. I said to Bess afterwards, "Why didn't you stop?" He said, "Oh, I didn't like him to put the ball past me." It's only the fact that Bess dived for it. Everybody heard the whistle because we played in those days. We played a tight high back line, and our back four were military in their precision with it, and used to catch people offside every week. And he was offside by a mile, but because the referee let it go on a little bit, or he didn't hear it straight away. And then Bess has tried to save it. And I said to Bess, if you just stand up and let him put it, nobody ever thinks it's a goal. But then people say, oh, it's a disallowed. It wasn't disallowed. It was offside miles before that.
Yeah, it wasn't given. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, but the all glorious moment comes in. Free kick, I think, from the left-hand side, glancing header into the top corner. You must have watched that goal a few times, mustn't you?
Not as many as you would think, I've seen it, and it's obviously nice when it's on the clips for the FA Cup week and such like. But I've got to say, more important than that goal. I mean, that was a great goal, and I'm really pleased that I scored it. More important than that, I also scored the goal that got Wimbledon into the top flight. Talking about being in the right place at the right time, playing Huddersfield away. We need to beat them. We have a free kick, which is knocked to me by Glyn Hodges, and I well it into the top corner from about 30 yards. And I remember we win 1-0. It confirms us being up in the top flight with about 2 games to go. And Bassett says to me afterwards, "What on earth are you taking free kicks for?" The type of club I work for. Anyway, go back to the cup final goal. Yeah, so the cup final goal. Yeah, I mean, again, set play. We played Chelsea the week before that. It's funny. We played Chelsea the week before that, and I'm looking around the team thinking, where is everybody? Of course, half the players had ducked out because it's cup final the week after. And silly me wanting to play every game that I was ever at a club for. I never even thought about it. But, Fash isn't playing. Someone else isn't playing. He isn't playing. And I'm thinking, where are they all? And they're all in the stand watching the game, getting themselves ready for the following Saturday. Anyway, we have a game against Chelsea. We draw 2-2. Dennis Wise takes exactly the same free kick at Plough Lane from exactly the same position. I get between the fenders, score exactly the same goal. So it just shows the scouting in those days wasn't quite as good as it is now.
No, Dennis Wise, of course, former Swindon manager.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So you have
and flaming perennial FA Cup appearance winner.
Yes.
And play as a player and a man. Well, appeared took a team there when he took Millwall to the cup final as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Where's your medal then? You got it near your hand, I think, haven't you?
I've got it. Well, I don't usually carry it with me, but you did ask me to get it.
I did ask it. Yeah, there it is. An FA Cup winners medal.
I got it out of the cabinet. I'm not sure that they used to be. These were the same. The ones here were the same as they presented 120 years beforehand. But I'm not sure the current medal is the same, because I see these great big things they have on their chests now, on the ribbon, and it's nothing like that.
No.
So we got ours in a box as well. So
yes.
That is exactly the same as the ones who won it in the 1890s or whatever.
What's on the reverse side of it? What's on the reverse?
Actually, it doesn't have my name. All it has is the Football Association Challenge Cup winners. What it does, and the only way you know which year it is because you can't probably see it. On the rim, it's got the year.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah,
so following season, we come in pre-season, and Vinny's going around and asking if anybody wants to sell their medal for $5,000.
I mean, I don't understand what happens with those ribbons. Do they get a box as well afterwards, or what? I don't know what happens. Really.
I'm not sure. I've got a box that comes in a nice box actually.
Yeah,
saying it, but I've often said, to be honest, and I think it's something they do when they have in American sport. They have the ring, don't they? So you win the NFL, you could get this great big, solid look at me ring, and I thought that was quite, a bit too showy at once. But I can understand now. So every time you go to a football event, like you go to PFA dinner or league managers dinner or whatever it is, you can stick your ring on, and you haven't got to say to anybody, because the ring stands out and says, by the way, I played in a winning FA Cup final team. So I think that's a great tradition in American sport, and perhaps it's something in this modern day and age, because I'm never going to wear this to a dinner or pin it to my thing or wear it around my neck, because it just sits in a box. Whereas if I had a big ring I mean, and I think those rings are about 100 grand each or something. The NFL rings.
Well, they
aren't
got
they, for the
diamonds and everything else on the
Yeah.
gold, and goodness knows what.
And
Yeah.
I've seen them close up. When I go to Vegas, sometimes I see them because the bloke, the team, the company that makes them sometimes have some in the sort of on their display thing, and they are magnificent. I mean, I ain't a great one for rings, but I think being able to put on a ring and say, and just you haven't got to say anything. You can just sit at dinners and people can't miss it, and you haven't got to say a word. I think that is fantastic. It would be fantastic to do, but obviously too late now.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the mood.
Although I did hear that PK, was it PK, got rings made up of all his European Cup final ones, didn't he? So he got rings made up with the city with diamonds in with the European Cup winner and the team against for himself.
Very nice. Let's
I'd
get
like
into
to do
the
that.
move to Swindon then, because it was a very brief. I mean, you might spot behind me. I've got the Premier League shirt up there. I mean, you only made a few appearances. There is a few.
And he came on deadline day.
Yeah, I know.
I prefer, percentage-wise, my attendance record is probably better than most players that have ever been through there.
Well, I think you made your debut against Man United, didn't you?
I made my debut against Man United at home, 2-2. I've got it in front of me here. Got Cantona sent off.
Yes.
And in our day at Wimbledon, we did anything to balance the books. So Swindon were bottom of the table, adrift. They'd have had to win all those 8 games to probably get out of it that I was there. The fact that we didn't win one probably showed, with the greatest respect, what a poor team they were. But by the time I got there, what can you say? They were downbeat, to say the least. So at Wimbledon, we just used to even up. We tried everything we could to even up the scales. We famously always tried to get Gary Lineker booked when we played him because he had this reputation of never being booked in his career, didn't we? So we set about before a game thinking of ways that we could get him booked. But he never fell for it at our place. Anyway, going back to this game, Cantona steps all over my my midfield colleague, John Moncur.
John Moncur, yeah.
Treads all over him, doesn't he? And going for a ball. And I come across and I push Cantona over. He goes flying across. Referee, and I've given it, you can't have that referee, it's out of order, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he gets sent off. And I'm thinking, job done, got Cantona off the field. You know, we need to win this game against Man United. 11 against 10, we might have a chance now. Anyway, coming at half time, and John Gorman gives me a bollocking. He says, Laurie, we're not like that at this club. We're not like that at this club. We don't do that type of thing. And I'm thinking, John, you're flaming bottom of the table. You're one of the worst teams that's been in the Premier League ever. And you're unhappy about playing without Cantona on the opposite side. To be fair to the rest of the players, at that moment, they all jumped in and said, oh, no, John, don't worry. He deserved it. He shouldn't have gone. Don't blame him. But that was the sort of mentality at the time I joined the club. And it was eye-opening, to say the least. And to a certain extent, you can understand why they let in 100 goals that season, which is a record, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it wasn't until Sheffield United, I think, recently got more than 100.
They beat it, did they?
Yeah.
I mean, that said, I mean, we drew 2-2 United that day, which in hindsight was a great result, but would have been a better result if we could have beaten them in 10 men.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic, to have drawn against Man United. But as you said, Luke Nyholt got a great goal for Swindon, didn't he? Jan Fjortoft got a goal. But everybody remembers that game for the Cantona sending off. That's what they all remember it for.
And which John Gorman was going to dig me out for being unprofessional. What was the word he used? That's not what we do at this club. It's unprofessional. I'm thinking, well, I've come from a different club, John. We don't. To be fair, we'd be high-fiving at our club if we'd done that.
So what was that like then, that run-in? Because as you said, the last game was against Leeds, a 5-0 home defeat. That brought about the 100 goals. How was it to play?
I didn't play in that. I didn't play in that. To be fair, I did play in it. I was sub, though. So yeah. I came on when it was about 4-0 down. I don't know why. I mean, John did some strange things. I mean, he's a lovely guy, but he did some strange things. I mean, I've got to tell you a story. My last start was against Wimbledon I've got it up here on the 23rd of April 1994. Which brought up my last start for Swindon was that I think I might have been sub against Chelsea, and I was sub against Leeds last game of the season. Yeah, as I started I was saying this earlier. I started my career at Wimbledon against Wimbledon for Reading. I played 10 years at Wimbledon, obviously with the success there. And then my last full start as a professional footballer was against Wimbledon. But my last game, you're right, was against Swindon. We're at 4-0 down. John brought me on as a sub to mark the little red-headed right winger manager, Strachan. Played me at right back to mark him, which wasn't my strength really. And I don't quite know why I did that, but as I say, did some strange things, John.
And when was the moment when you thought, that's it, I've done, boots hang up, all that kind of stuff? Because it is a tough call, or is it a tough call to make that decision?
I done my cruciate pre-season '92, just as the start of the Premier League season. I'd done my cruciate in a pre-season friendly. I went to have an operation. My cartilage came out, and the surgeon said, "You've ruptured your cruciate. You need to think about retiring." And I said, "Well, I can't think about retiring. I've got 2 years left on a contract, and I've got flaming family to keep hold of. So that ain't going to work." So he said, "Well, if you rehab it, do this, do that, you can perhaps get through it." So I did all the work. I spent hours and hours on hamstring, quads. If you can make your hamstring and quads tight, they hold your knee in place and stop the laxity in it. So I did plenty of that. I came back at Christmas time. Peter Wither came over and taken over as manager of that stage, and I never actually played for Peter Wither because by the time I got back into the team at Christmas, he'd been sacked. So I got back in the team, and I played for the last 18 months of my career, and I didn't enjoy games because I was trying to get through them rather than impose myself on them. If you're with me, I was trying to I knew my knee wasn't 100%, and I was getting through games rather than actually imposing myself on them. And it took away a little bit of the enjoyment of the game for me. So, when my time at Swindon was up, I finished in the Premier League. Spent 7 years in the lower leagues, 9 years in the lower leagues, and how many times? 7 years in the lower leagues, and last 10 years in the top level. So actually last 8 years at the top level, because we spent 2 years to get up. So 7 and 8, 15 years I was a professional, and that wasn't a bad way of finishing.
No, absolutely, to go out at the top. That's quite right. So management, I mean, obviously we haven't got that long left. I mean, we could go on about this all night, to be honest, but one or two highlights. You get to manage Northern Ireland, which is an honour for anybody. You played for them 3 times. You could have played for Ecuador, of course, I believe, couldn't you? Because of your dad, you could have played for Ecuador.
I could. Well, I did. They did inquire via a third party, but it was too far for home games, to be fair.
But you played for England schoolboys as well, so you'd had a fair choice.
Schoolboys. Yeah, England schoolboys obviously is made up of. Any nationality could play for England as long as you go to school in England. That can qualify for England schoolboys. So that's how I played for them. I actually made my debut for Reading before they picked me for England schoolboys. They'd actually left me out of the England schoolboys team, and then realised there was this young kid playing for a professional football team who wasn't in their squad, and thought, "What's this about?" And I think I'd been at trials as well. I'd certainly played for South East counties and that, where you didn't actually go for trials for England. They picked you out from the South East counties. You went town. In my day, you went town, county, South East counties, and then you played other parts of the UK. And they picked the England schoolboys out of that. And for some reason, I wasn't picked. But then they had a bit of egg over their face because I was playing for Reading at the time, as in the 3rd division, and I was still at school, and I wasn't in the England schoolboys team. So they so they called me up for that, and I played 3 times for England schoolboys on the back of that.
But then you go on to manage, I say your country, I think it's your mother's country.
My mum's country, yeah.
Yeah. So you go to manage Northern Ireland, and I think you had a bit of a fallout of the media, didn't you? Because you don't think you got the credit that you deserved, really.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, media aren't great, to be fair. I mean, as Hollis will tell you, they have their own. People have their own agendas, and sometimes their agendas are different to your agenda. And we were doing well in Northern Ireland, and all of a sudden, the press, for some reason, took it upon themselves. I tell you what it was. We were playing we opened a World Cup qualifier, I think it was, and we lost 3-0 to Iceland on the Saturday at home. And we up until then, we our results had gone well. I was quite, we were doing quite well, so they were looking forward to a good campaign. The fact that they'd opened the last two qualifying periods with 3-0 home defeats to other teams, that it was here nor there. But some journalists that led the pack in Northern Ireland, and there is a pack, the journalists, and the leader of the pack had gone on 5 Live and said, if Laurie loses to Spain, if Dornay loses to Spain, then perhaps it's time we need to look for someone else. And I just signed a new contract, and I'm thinking, we'd shot up in the world rankings into the top, 40s and 50s from down at 127 of that. And all of a sudden, he's saying, having lost to Iceland, if we lose to Spain, then my future was in doubt. So, of course, he beat Spain 3-2, with a back throw. David Healy scores a fantastic hat-trick. That was the Spain team that I lost. In that qualifying campaign, they might have lost a couple of games after they lost to us. And then they went about 8 years undefeated, winning the Euros twice and the World Cup.
Yeah.
So that's team we beat 3-2 at having been behind twice, with Flame in a front line of, giving someone like Johnny Avon making his debut at left back, because we had no other left backs at the time. And nobody knew how good he was going to be at the time, but we had to play him because we had nobody else could play left back. And that was when they had Raul up front, the multi-million-pound Liverpool to Chelsea centre forward, his name escapes me for the minute. Torres, and David Silva. So there was their front three, and all of them went across to play on this 21-year-old left back, right-footed left back that was making his debut that night. And all of them then decided not to go across and move back across to the other side. So so we beat them 3-2. I said to the chief executive, I ain't talking to them. They can go stuff it. And I went home, and that was the beginning of the end for me at Northern Ireland.
Great, Shane. Another great managerial moment, of course. If I mention the name Roy Essendoe, you must remember that.
Teletext Roy, CFAX Roy as it was then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, an incredible moment, because you'd been sent off in that cup tie against Leicester, hadn't you, from the dugout, as it were? And you watched it in the tunnel.
Spiky. Well, I wasn't in the tunnel. I was in a little room with a TV under the tunnel. I'd almost say it's a boot room type thing. It's one of those little cubby holes that you have in old grounds with a TV in, and they make tea in there and all sorts, for the groundsman and all that. Probably the groundsman's room, to be fair. And I'd actually been sent off by that time, and I was watching the game on a TV with my secretary next to me, the football secretary next to me. And Roy Essendoe scores his only goal of that season, to let you know, having signed him from CFAX. What can you say?
Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful story. I've got a question here from Nick. He says, does Laurie think Ian Holloway will bring more of a crazy gang mentality to Swindon? I mean, obviously you mentioned that, Ian Holloway was at Wimbledon. I mean, what sort of mentality
Ian didn't have the best time at Wimbledon, either from a professional point of view. I think actually after he left, Ian as a player could run all day, and then all week could run like mad, and then come a Saturday he used to blow up during games, and they used to take him off, and they thought he had domestic problems as well, as we all know, with his children and such like, and I think his wife was ill at the time as well. And then after he left, they found he had a glandular fever on top of that. So his time at Wimbledon was about one season, and it was short-lived. It wasn't very successful, and I don't think he has great memories of the place. You'll have to ask him that, but I know he certainly won't be complimentary about one or two of the players there. But that's what I said about that. It was a dog-eat-dog situation. If you couldn't stand up for yourself and couldn't perform on a Saturday, and the criteria, I mean, I often said to Bassett, in the modern day and age, you'd almost call it a bullying culture. And I said to Bassett at the time, because it affected me at times, when I first went then, I didn't know what it was about. And certainly, it affected Ian when his time there. As I say, he had other things going on as well that we didn't know about. But and I said to Bassett, what's this about? And he said, well, I take the opinion that if you can't deal with the setup in the dressing room here, that what you're going to deal with when you've got 54,000 at Old Trafford to contend with, one in your neck. And I, on one hand, see it, and on the other hand, don't necessarily agree with it. But Ian spent a year there. He went back to Bristol Rovers with Jerry Francis. Jerry took him to QPR, and he had 10 years at the top flight as a top class Premier League player. But I don't think his memories of Wimbledon will, if you ever get the chance to talk to him, will come be seen in rose-tinted glasses in any shape or form. Will he bring that mentality? Probably not, to be fair, because Ian's got his own man. I've not worked with him, but I've certainly spoken to people that work with him. You know, his heart on sleeve mentality is something that, you know, has worked for him during his career. You know, he's an honest man. He's an honest worker. He gives what he's got. He makes the most of the talent he has. And I'm sure as a manager that's what he's brought to his game. So it's a completely different culture, I would say. And I don't think he'd be bringing too many crazy gang things into the mix just because of his time there.
Well, he's certainly got someone up the table and out of danger from going down to non-league, which is the most important thing right now at this season.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah. We should also mention you do a bit of charity work, of course, because you've had sad events in your life as well, haven't you? So,
everybody has.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't, you're a very lucky person.
Yeah. But you're involved with cancer charities, I think, in Northern Ireland, aren't you? Is that right?
When I was there, to be fair, the first people to ask me, obviously, sort of, you know, some people are quite clued in, was a charity called Action Cancer, which was big in Northern Ireland, and they asked me would I be a patron for it. And of course, the Northern Ireland manager, I said yes, and I did a charity walk for them when I was there across the desert of Gambia, which was quite an experience, quite enjoyable, to be fair. And I raised a little bit of money for them. So they haven't been in contact since I've been out of the job, so I don't know whether I'm still a patron or not, I think. But you know, yeah, no, I've done that. And this year I'm actually captain of Variety Golf charity, which, if you know, produce the Sunshine Coaches that they give to schools with children with disabilities, either physical or mental, that allow them to get out and about on day trips and that, and take people here, there, and everywhere. You'll notice them. They're the big blue ones with a great big sunshine on. They're called the Sunshine Coaches. And this year's our 60th anniversary. I'm very lucky to be captain this year, and we're looking to donate 60 coaches this year, which will be a phenomenal achievement if we can do it.
Yeah, amazing.
So yeah, so combining two things I enjoy, you know, charity work and golf. I mean, and it's a win-win situation.
So what are you up to now?
What am I doing? Not an awful lot. I'm on the FA Judicial Committee, so I sit on sendings off that have happened in football from any level where they can produce a camera and show evidence, really, up to the Premier League. I'll do that. That's a part-time thing. I say I'm captain of Variety this year. Have a few holidays, and you know, people ask me, so when I go, what do you do all day? I said, well, I don't know what I do, but it takes me all day to do it, and by 6 o'clock I'm ready to sit down with a glass of wine and watch the news. So, you know, life is full. If anybody, I'm retired, you know, I am retired, but I've got, you know, when I look at what my thing's got to do today for the sake of, I've got about 7 different items on there, right, to get done today, you know, so there's always stuff to do. I sometimes wonder how I have time to work.
Well, don't we all who are retired? You know, suddenly you have these days, but they've gone, haven't they? You get to the end of it, it's 7 o'clock, and you think, where did that go?
I play with a lot of older guys who are on the cusp of retiring, and they worry about it. And I say to them, don't worry about it. I mean, there should be training for retirement. I think there should be government training for retirement, because obviously it's hard. A lot, I say men more than women. I think men more than women justify themselves by the job they do or by working. And once that they're no longer doing that, I think a lot of them, if they don't have something else to do or haven't trained down for it, feel that they lose purpose. But you meet these people 6 months later when they have found their purpose again, whether it be playing golf, doing this, doing voluntary work, and they're thinking, why on earth didn't I pack up earlier? And yeah, so I think there should be some sort of government training to show you just can't pack in work one day and work out the following day with that whole purpose taken. You need to detrain, if I think is the word we use, detrain.
And do you watch football now?
Yeah, I go to Reading every day. I go to Reading most games. To be fair, they're very good to me. They provide me with tickets. In fact, I was there on Saturday because Steve Death, I don't know if you remember him, the old goalkeeper, 5'7" he was.
Yeah,
5'7". Set that record for the longest time without goals we did when I was in the fourth division promotion year, and then the beginning of the following season. 13 clean sheets, I think it was, wasn't it? 12 clean sheets. 1,000 odd minutes or something. That was only beaten by Man United and Van der Sar many years later. So we set that record. So he had a book's been written about him by a local journalist, and had a few old boys down there signing it before the Reading Rotherham game, which obviously Reading won, and gets them back in the playoff positions.
And AFC Wimbledon, we play tomorrow night. Of course, you never played for them, but what do you think about that rebirth? The fact that they've come to where they are, they've got a fantastic new stadium in Plough Lane. You know, it's a nice place to go. What do you think of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's what they've done is phenomenal. You know, a group of fans that were on the terraces at Wembley, you know, said that we don't want to be moved to Milton Keynes. We're going to form our own club and start again. Go through that whole long league process from the bottom tier of non-league back into the league, into a brand new stadium. You know, 8,500 seater stadium, which is magnificent. You can't but say that is a phenomenal job. The only bugbear I have with it is that they claim they won the FA Cup. Now, I can understand the fans who were on the terracing who started AFC and support AFC. I can understand them saying, you know, well, I was there and this is that club. But for me as a player, I never played for AFC. They formed in 2002, I think. I'd retired long before that. To say that I won the cup with AFC Wimbledon, I didn't win the cup with AFC Wimbledon. I won the cup with Wimbledon. And whether I like it or not, that club moved from Plough Lane to Selhurst, which was a club move. I mean, I know it was close and there were reasons for it because the Premier League needed all-seater stadium. But, you know, I used to joke with other players, you know, and a lot of other players only came and never played at Selhurst, never played at Plough Lane. So I was one of the last ones to play at Plough Lane and play at the Premier, play at Palace. And I should say we play 38 away games a year here. And it felt like that for me. You know, it never felt the same for me. So the move to Milton Keynes, although contentious, was where that actual club moved to. Now, I know Milton Keynes have given back a word I've never met before, which is called patrimony. I don't know if you've ever come across it.
No, no.
You'll have to. Well, there's a thing called patrimony, and what it is they gave back. They gave back. You know, they said we didn't win the Middlesex Cup or the Southern League or that. They gave back all those trophies and everything regarding the club back to Merton Council, not to Wimbledon, but to Merton Council. Said, look, we're not going to say that we were the team that won the FA Cup. We're not going to claim that. We're going to give all that patrimony back. I think Merton have now given it back to Wimbledon, which wasn't I don't think was the idea at the beginning. But much as they say, I never played for FC. Great story, fantastic story, almost as good a story as the original one. But I can't hand on heart say I played for FC. I support what they've done, and the fans who go there, the old fans that go there that can remember the FA Cup, I fully, you know, fantastic job. But I didn't play for FC.
Fair enough. Well, whatever happens, we hope Swindon beat them tomorrow night. That's what I can say. That's, you know, obviously with my Swindon hat on. Yeah. Laurie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. We've only scratched the surface, to be honest. What an incredible career.
Yeah, as I say, I could have told her a few more, but obviously another time, another day. Yeah,
we'd love to have you back on again because we got a whole managerial career to go through, international appearances, you know, all those years at Wimbledon. You know, it would be great to have you on again at some point in the future, if that would be all right with you.
Yeah, sure.
Lovely. Excellent. Thanks, Laurie. It's been great hearing all the old stories. It's fantastic. So thank you very much for spending your time with us.
That's okay.
Everybody, we will be back. Vic and I will be back next Monday. We will confirm on socials what's happening next Monday. We will see you tomorrow, or we will see you at Fleetwood, whoever's travelling all the way to Fleetwood on Saturday.
Yep.
And if not, we will see you on Monday. So take care, everybody, and goodbye.